want to get a lot of these things off of him, actually. See that? That's what we want to change. I want this. There we go. So he starts learning how to follow the leash instead of, this is the big thing right here. If he's going to try to go out this way, and I want to turn him this way, look what his butt does. He goes against the pressure, right? So if we're going out here, and I want him to turn this way, you see, that's what we want to change. That is leash pressure 101. I can't stress that enough. Trainers don't even understand that. I want this. Right there, pressure comes off. And if I have to use my body to show him where to go, then I'll do that as that pivot, right? So we're gonna change that. You're gonna see how that starts to change and how that starts to soften up. I'm gonna try to get this off of him as well. We're good. All I'm doing now, really important, nothing has changed from the beginning to the end. We just came in, I put a mic on. He has his muzzle on. Based off of his demeanor and how I'm starting to get this already, I actually am pretty confident that I'm gonna be getting this muzzle off pretty soon. I actually don't like working with muzzles too much. I'll work with muzzles more to empower like people that might be a little more nervous or clients or something. But I feel that a lot of times dogs don't really have a fair shot, and not that he should have access to bite me, but it also makes me much more honest and cautious about how I do things versus you have a muzzle, so I'm just gonna go ahead and try and do that, and it keeps people honest, right? So you really, like that right there, all these little things is what we're gonna try to change. Right now you're gonna see the dog as he came. The aggression, which the appearance of aggression, even though he has bitten, is kind of gone, even though we didn't do much, and now it's showing, so you're gonna see the dog that's cowering. That's what we're gonna build out of the dog. And yes, we're gonna use a prong collar, we're gonna use a remote collar. It's not about the tool, it's how you use it. We're gonna get him off of this scary Hannibal Lecter looking thing, try to get some ointment on his nose because he's got a rash from this muzzle, and really just try and start to get him to understand. I'm yelling, I realize I have my mic here. Get him to understand that when I talk, what I do through this leash is different. Right there, pressure will come off. I don't care so much about my body movements. He doesn't have to be following me. I don't want to stay like this all the time. I don't want to stay stiff. I want him to be comfortable. Right there, pressure comes off. Coming back this way, pressure is off. Pressure's on a little bit. Right there, pressure's off, so it's showing him kind of where to be, right? A little bit of this bringing him here, pressure comes off. Really trying to just get him to kind of warm up, kind of relax, maybe get to a point where with the SIT, a little bit of pressure, a little bit of praise. This is actually a good dog. This is like, you know, not nearly as scary as a lot of other dogs that we get in. Doesn't mean that he doesn't have potential to do some pretty serious damage. Doesn't mean that, doesn't mean that he's not gonna be strong and an issue in other areas. You know, we're gonna have to work on that. I'm actually gonna get him off this muzzle. Who is that downstairs? Sloan? Does she have a bark on her?
Yeah, but
or him?
not tight enough.
Okay.
Or it's been on one for a couple days now.
Okay. So now there's a couple things. I'm in a more dangerous position. Some people will say it's stupid, but now it makes me more aware of things. So I actually like this more. I can also see the face a bit more too, which for me makes things easier. So I'm almost gonna just try and walk more or less of like a fine line. And there's really, really subtle things that I'm doing in the leash. A lot of it is almost like wrist turns to apply pressure, releasing, but not releasing the leash, releasing the tension in here, right? Pressure's gonna go on this way, pressure kind of comes off. Let him learn to follow the leash. Very similar to horse reins. When you're using reins on a horse, it's super rare, unless like a horse is like poorly trained, that you're having to pull. It's usually once you start to raise this leash, once I start to go this way, that the dog gets the pressure that shuts off, right? Or the horse gets the reins that shut off. So he's not as sensitive as I'd like him to be, But right there, that's where I want to shut it off. And I don't want to do this. I don't want to introduce it in a crazy environment. Sure, we're already ahead of the game because we have these two dogs here, but they're also just kind of hanging out. So all I want to do is I want to be very mindful that this, you can see that jumpiness. I don't even know if there was a sound over there, but he just like kind of freaked there for a second. All I want is I want this leash to always guide his head. So if I'm going to turn him this way, it's almost going to be ahead of him. If I'm going to bring him this way, that's the direction. So he's following the path of the leash. The leash, aside from the exercises that I'm doing for the most part, is following the path of me. I'm going to pull him behind me and kind of go this way. If I'm going this way, this is a little bit more advanced. If I'm going to go back that way, I'm going this way. He's coming behind me. He's following in my footsteps. That's what I really, really want. So before I get into that fancy stuff, it's just very, very soft. My body will help. You see the tension. I have to know when to release and when to shut this off. This is leash pressure kind of 101. Pressure's going to go up. He already knows some of this stuff, right? I'm not going to go into correcting him or saying no or even care about positioning. I just want him to kind of understand. You see now he's starting to get softer, right? So this guy came in really, really pulley on a leash. Good job. Good. Good. And there's a couple things that I have to think of. When you have a dog that is reactive, when you have a dog that is a bite risk, that has bitten, you have to understand that if I'm going to make the risk to come here and pet, that if things were to go south, I'm in a position with this hand to pull away or to release and do this or do something, right? I'm not here, and then it comes out of nowhere and I'm not able to catch myself. So that's very important, especially if you're working with problem dogs, that you're set up the way that you need to be. So if I'm over here, I'm always in a position where even if I have slack on the leash, it's not 30 feet of leash so that he can attack me. By the time I create tension, I'm all the way over here and he's still where he needs to be. I might be here, right? I might create this. I might create this, and then I'm asking for help, or I might use like a pulley system and I'm trying to get him like away from me, you know what I mean? So that's not the case here, but I also look for a couple of other things. We have a dog that's already open mouth. Open mouth is a very great thing. When you have a dog that's open mouth and I'm petting, right there when it's closed mouth, you have to be really good at reading the dog. I can tell that the demeanor is fine. So now I'm just giving him a little bit of loving, nothing crazy. Let him know I'm not like this bad guy. I'm not going off the deep end with affection, but I see he's open mouth. That's a good thing. If I'm going to pet or I'm going to move and a dog goes from this to this and that mouth closes, that's when you kind of have to be careful. Those are little things that you have to see. So enough of that. Just so I know that people ask. People will be like, well, how do you know the dog's not going to bite you? Or what if the dog did this right now? I'm pretty much always prepared. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this. I'm also dragging it purposely because I want to see how nervous he actually is. He hears certain sounds. Is he jumping? He's not jumping at all. So I'll let him explore that, whatever. As he's exploring, I'm not here. I'm letting him explore a loose leash, right? It's going to go on. Look at that, on his own. And then I might use a little bit of leash pressure. I'm not pulling back this way. I want to turn him here. Pressure comes off. All right, good job, buddy. So that's very, very important, your direction of your leash. He's going to come back on again. Go ahead. Good. Pressure is off. Have him come right off. Now we're going to turn this way. I might have him come on like this. Pressure is off when he's doing it. Good job. All right. Now, if my sits are good here, and I can successfully get a sit, there might be situations where I don't even do this in a lesson, but he already has this pretty much down. I'm pretty confident that at the very least I can do this to get it and pressure's coming off. If my sit is going good, I can do sessions where because I know his sit is good here, that's how he eats from me. So I know I can get him to sit physically, so I'll say sit, Leash pressure will go on, good, and then I'll feed. Good, and then I'll feed, yes, and then the dog comes off. And that gets into whole markers, which we'll address later. But because I know I can sit him, now I'm confident being able to bring him on here. And then right when the back legs go up, it's a little bit more nervous. Good job. And something so simple is a big task, because now I brought you on here and I stopped you, nope, from coming off. And now he got his first correction or his first negative reinforcement that was suggesting kind of something different, saying nope. And then right there, my pressure off of the hammock or the bed is what gets him a little bit more jumpy. You can see that. So those are things that I have to be like super, super mindful of, right? Let him just rest on here for a second. Let's go. And then he knows how he's getting off. You don't get off of that thing unless you go on there voluntarily. You don't get off of that thing unless I basically say, you know? So right here, I'm not shutting pressure off. I'm also not dragging him. I might use my body to speak a little bit clearly. Switch up a bit here. Right there, comes off. Right? He's used to doing this. This is like coming in and out of the crate. Remember, she said, you might even want to put this clip on, he'll resist. And once he does that, that's when she stops, so that's when he gets a little bit crazy, right? So rather than going right to a crate and trying to drag him in, let me have this be an open crate and show him when you feel pressure and you resist, pressure doesn't shut off. When you go toward it, there you go. That's how you shut pressure off. You're the winner. You figured it out. Let's go. Good. And I'm always ahead of the dog, right? Ahead of the dog to show him where to go. I might be in a position that when I'm here, I'm still ahead, and now I'm still bringing him back to me. So I can always be ahead of him and walk this way, but then I can switch it up. And even though I'm this way, now the leash is still ahead of him. So if I'm gonna change, my pressure's not going that way. I'm always still in front of the dog. And that's what sets me up. Right here, the leash is still bringing him back toward me. I'm always trying to control the head, right? And all we're doing is a bunch of this stuff. It's gonna go on. Come on. I might pulse a little bit, nervousness, a little bit of that resistance, which has worked for him in the past. Good job. I know that was like tough. That was scary, buddy, huh? And simple things are a challenge. So I'm challenging him this way. I don't need to jump into him meeting dogs. I don't need to jump into him, you know, doing the crate and stuff. We're gonna have to do the crate later. But for right now, let me let this guy work this way, right? I'm not gonna pressure him by this water. I might bring this over here, and I'm aware of the things that cause pressure for a dog, right? Good. Once his leash pressure gets really, really good, I can then begin to have him see dogs, maybe like some of the team is getting dogs out for a walk, and he's looking at them this way. So then I can turn a leash pressure exercise into he's looking at the dogs, and now I'm gonna use leash pressure to say, hey, focus on me this way. And I'm gonna make sure that when the leash pressure goes this way, that his head turns. I'm gonna make sure that when the leash pressure goes this way, he doesn't put his butt toward it so that he can stay square with the distraction. And you guys saw that. You might show this clip right now in the beginning when we first started working the dogs. See that? That's what we want to change. I want this. This is the big thing right here. If he's going to try to go out this way, and I want to turn him this way, look what his butt does. He goes against the pressure, right? So if we're going out here, and I want him to turn this way, you see, that's what we want to change. I want this. Right there. Those are all the little things that are the steps of progression in the slow stuff that looks boring, if that makes sense, right? Because this is not really for us, it's more for the dog, getting him to kind of figure this out. And I try different things. Sometimes my body moves with the pressure. Sometimes my body stays still, and then I extend it a little bit more, and that can be a whole different challenge for a dog, right? Let him process this. Good job. So we'll do something like this. This might be like the end. I might see if he knows down outside of his pressure-free zone, and if he knows down really good, then I'll go ahead and I'll down him on a placemat. You know what I mean? But I want to know that I'm not putting unnecessary pressure on a placemat because I want that to be like a pressure-free zone for him. down tends to be trickier. And if he really didn't respond to leash pressure with them, even though he looks really good with us right now, down might come a little bit later. I don't know, like I can check it out. But eventually our next session is gonna be the same thing, and this is what he's gonna do to work for his meals, and that's how we're gonna introduce markers with him. Marker words, good, yes, and nope, and get him really good with that, and get him really good with understanding how he eats. Now I'm able to lure, I'm able to use markers, I'm able to use leash pressure, and with those three things, with my body language, I can introduce spatial pressure, I can introduce commands. Now I'm creating the language that I need to start to tackle his problems in other areas, because he understands how to respond to this, he understands how to respond to this, he understands how to respond to this, how to be pressured and challenged and not try to fight or redirect on me, how to back up and how to follow me this way, how to get praise, me going toward him when it's for praise, me going toward him when I'm trying to tell him something different. You gotta create the language, because when there's no clarity or there's confusion in the language, that's how people get bit. That's how, I could go on forever about it. That's how you see explosions. That's how you see dogs now understanding corrections and like getting more stressed out and stuff like that, right? So I'll put him into the SIT right there, pressure is off. I'll see if maybe I could apply pressure down. He looks a bit nervous about that, so there's a couple things that I have to do. I have to have my position over here. I have a shorter leash, you know what I mean? So that if he was to get a little silly with the pressure, I can pull up and back away, right? So I might try to see, a lot of nervousness there, right? I could decide to go through this fully and do it in a way where I'm not trying to force him, he's just gonna feel pressure and eventually he'll lay down. Or I can say, you know what, let me abandon this now before I fully start it, because if I'm gonna start it, I wanna finish it, right? So we're gonna work on this for his food. I know he's not that soft, but that was a little bit of a test to kind of see where he is. He doesn't know down. He doesn't really know that, or he might. Down. See, he's pulling up against that pressure there. Down. Okay. So there's a couple things I can do. I can follow through with this fully. At this point, because I felt him give a little, now I'm a little bit more confident in saying at least I'm gonna get it. Could you grab beef liver for me, just to help speed this up so I can get it? And all I'm doing is holding pressure on him. Give me like 2. Holding pressure on him, but at the same time, I'm not like pulling him into this. You know what I mean? That's super important. Thanks. So you see here a couple things. Nope, I'm gonna bring him back into the SIT. And now with my hand, it's not gonna be this way. It's gonna be this way, because the bridge of the nose has to come down here. So if he wants it, you see, and now there's, oh, I don't really know about this. So right there, he's gonna end up going into the down. Good boy. He has no idea. He doesn't even want this. So I see that. I got what I wanted. That's it. I'm gonna totally abandon everything. Good boy, come on. And later on, I'll get more fancy into actually teaching him what it means. You can see he has noticed the difference in his tail already. It's still low, but do you see it? It's loose now. So when you start speaking clearly with the dog, even in a fearful dog, you eventually start, you might not see like a tail up and wagging. This is not energy for that type of tail. But you see a tail that's starting to relax a little bit more. Right? So that's all. The only thing I wanted to point out is just when communication gets clear, we might even see, I don't know if you noticed before, when we sat him, the tail was tucking under. I'm willing to bet now, and I could be totally wrong, that when I sit him, the tail is gonna fall on the outside. Come on. Good job. Yeah, you see it? On this side? Good boy, yeah, it's on this side. All right, I'll flip him over if that's the side that it tends to tuck to. Come on. Here. Good job, buddy. Good job. So good. So good. Yeah. Pros and cons to recording. So of course they left. Jen, could you do me a favor? Could you go outside and then just show your face there? So I want to talk about like finesse in leash and positioning and early stages of corrections. This is something that people miss. So not only do we have to focus on the direction that the leash is going in, it's not going up, it's usually low. This right here, I want right there. That's all I want to be able to do. Here and then off. Really, really focus. Come over here. Right here and then off. So that way, even if I go to bring him on and I come over here and I sit him, right when this happens and they're focusing on, the dog's focusing over here, look at the positioning in my leash. We'll have to wait for a second. Could you stand right over there for a minute? Yeah, just right over there. So when he's focused here, this is all I want to do. This is all I need to do, this, and then pressure comes off. And then you'll see he lays down so it's clear. I don't mind that he's looking. I mind how he's looking. If he's doing this, that's a problem. So I don't want to, you got to find the finesse. That's good. That's good. You want to find the finesse that is able to turn him, but keep him on a placemat. That's able to call him off, redirect him, just like that, but not in a way that if I do this, I call him off. Not in a way that if, that's one way. The second way is, look at that, he's starting to get more comfortable. Not in a way that if he's looking this way and I use leash, whether I pop it, whether I do it soft, he ignores it. If I'm gonna use leash, let me show him what to do to shut pressure off. Even though he's calm right now, I wanna almost shift him a little bit. So right there, he's acknowledging what I want, because also if I wanna call him off, now he's starting to acknowledge. So that's all the little leash pressure stuff that gets missed. That's super important with any dog, especially a dog like this that goes against leash pressure. That's very common. Look how this is starting, it's relaxing. He's like, yeah, I can do this. You know, I got this. I might even, let's go. Bring him back over here. See if we want some water.